Hello everyone and welcome to IMRT Reviews. IMRT, and today we're doing a non-spoiler review of Fear Street Part 3, 1666, the final part in Netflix's horror trilogy. Can we just quickly appreciate the t-shirt? Look at how cool that is, Wolverine, and I thought it was a bit on theme as he slashes. Yeah. So, let's talk about this movie. Now, I'm going to say straight away that I did find this film rather disappointing. I'm going to get onto that in a second, but I did find the film was beautifully directed. Once again, the cinematography was utterly superb throughout, and the soundtrack was once again phenomenal. But there were a few problems with this movie that I'm now going to talk about. Now, this film has two parts to it, and the first part I feel could have been a 10-minute flashback instead of the 45 minutes dedicated to it, as not much really happens. It isn't scary at all. There's about one scary moment, and I feel like the time that we could have been saved could have been used a lot better for the second part. And the first part just went on for too long for me. It kind of just felt like we were watching a series of events, and there was a little bit of a gimmick to it that kind of just wore off after 2 minutes. After I was going, oh, that's that person, or stuff like that. And after that had worn off, I was like, okay, I'm not that interested now. Let's move on. And it does go on for quite a long time. As we are following the story of Sarah Fear in this one, we didn't get any of the high school rivalry cringiness or the town rivalry, so none of that cringe in this movie, but we did instead get some awful Irish accents and some very over the top performances that did come across very silly to me and kind of take me out of the movie a bit. Now, I do respect they took the risk with the Irish accents, but they were so bad that I just sat there thinking, what am I listening to? And I was thinking about the accents more than I was about the movie at times, because I was like, what are these accents? So were really not very good. And I just sat there thinking, that was your American accent coming through there, okay? And they weren't great. But I respect the risk of having the actors do these accents. It's just it wasn't executed very well. When part 2 starts, we feel like we're in a bit of a rush because there's so much to do in such a short space of time. And because of this, there was quite a few story issues for me personally. And the tone of the film just completely switches as well, and it felt a bit off to me personally. And I think they could have done it in a bit more of a transitional type thing, where they transition into part 2 instead of just a part 2 cut type thing. An issue for me was the character of Dina just being impervious to knives. As spoilers for part 1 if you haven't seen it. I'm guessing you have as you're watching the review for part 3. She was stabbed in the first one, and they just seemed to just forget about it because she was just fine the entire time. I mean, she was just stabbed deep into her stomach, and she is fine. I'm guessing they forgot, or she's invincible. Who knows? The other thing is, there's such outlandish things happening in this movie, but the characters just believe everything. Like, a character will walk up to someone, they'll just explain it, and they go, oh, okay. And then just go along with it. They just believe it. There's no conflict in the movie between characters, and I'm just thinking, how are they just believing everything? Sometimes there's no proof, but they just believe everything. I'm like, okay, sure, let's just carry on going along with it. And then lastly, with the story, it's the ending. There's so much happens, and I just don't believe that it would have such a perfect, happy, bow on top of the present ending. I was like, come on now. I didn't believe the ending at all, because it's just so far from reality. I was like, I can't see this. And it's hard to get into spoilers. Maybe I'll do like a little bit at the end where I just talk about the ending with spoilers. But for me, I was just like, okay, I can't believe this. Next is a little bit more of a personal complaint from me, which is the lack of the slasher movie vibes in this. Like, there's barely any slasher killing at all, and considering part 1 and part 2 were very slasher movie orientated, the lack of it in part 3 I found very disappointing, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get a really cool slasher trilogy, and the third one's barely a slasher movie, for me personally. Maybe some other people will be like, it's a slasher movie, it's got less kills, but it's still pretty much a slasher movie, but for me, it wasn't really a slasher movie at all, and I found that quite disappointing. And I know people will say, fair play, they did something different, and you got to applaud them for that. And I do applaud them for doing something different. I always like different, unique movies and different takes on different genres. But for me personally, I was thinking this was going to be another slasher movie, because part 1 and part 2 were, and I was disappointed at the fact that there was barely any slasher vibes going on. A big thing for me as well is that none of the characters are fazed by the injuries that they incur. They just firm it, they just shake it off. Sure, I mean, I've been stabbed. That's fine, I'll just carry on. And that really hits the believability for me, takes me out of the film, and just kills the suspense, because I never believe any of the characters are in danger. And that was the main big flaw of this movie to me, was it wasn't scary. I wasn't scared once in this movie, and I found that very disappointing, as there were some tense moments in part 1 and part 2, but there was none of that in this one. The only real positives with this film for me is that it is, like I said at the start, it's well made. You know, the cinematography is great, the soundtrack's great, the directing, it was superb again. I think Lee Janiak is going to be a phenomenal director, and I can't wait to see what she does next. But this film had so much promise, and it didn't deliver on any of the potential that it built up to, and I was very disappointed with this movie. And it wasn't even fun for me either. Part 1 and part 2, I said in both of those reviews, they're not amazing, but they were fun, and I didn't even have that much fun with this movie. I was just thinking, when's it going to end? So I'm going to quickly talk about the spoilers at the end, just to clear up any confusion as to what I was talking about and what I couldn't believe. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, quickly click off. 3, 2, 1. The ending of the movie, there are 3 dead police officers. All the evidence is gone. The killers, they burst. The marking on the floor is gone. All the names on the walls are gone. All that is left is a black book. There's 3 dead police officers there. There's got the 2 kids. They're there as well. The criminal that was set up by Good, who isn't a criminal, but on his record it'll say graffiti and stuff like that. And they have the recluse, Ziggy. Okay, so there's 3 dead police officers there, and they're just gonna believe that Sheriff Good did all this and killed these officers with magic. I just can't believe that personally. I just think, is that really? So that's my only complaint with the ending there, where I was complete disbelief of what I was watching. I was like, seriously? But yeah, so let's wrap up my thoughts on this movie. So I hope Netflix delve into the world of horror movies a lot more in the future, as I did enjoy part 1 and 2. And even though part 3 is disappointing for me personally, I would recommend watching it just to get that sense of finality. You've watched the trilogy, and who knows, you probably might enjoy it a lot more than me. We all have different opinions on things, and that's the best thing about movies, film. It's subjective. You enjoy what you enjoy, and that's awesome. So let me know down in the comments below what you thought of part 3. I really hope you did find some enjoyment in the movie and it didn't disappoint you. And if you did enjoy this review, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.